If you were to get every USA president in history and put them in a free-for-all gladiator pit and there can only be one winner, who would win? The outcome of this would be too random to call. For instance, the knee-jerk reaction would be to call Theodore Roosevelt. However, this is a free-for-all we are talking about. That doesn't exclude the use of teams. And Theodore Roosevelt would likely be considered a big threat. So it is likely there would be several groups trying to kill just him, alone, whether he is in a team himself or not. Would you still choose Theodore Roosevelt if you knew he would be getting ganged up on by 10 plus of them at once? 10 versus 1 very rarely works out well for anyone. Dan O'Brien from oldcrack.com wrote a book about how to fight presidents that you might be interested in. Apparently the Secret Service talked to him because he was doing all this research on different presidents' fears and weaknesses also. Jackson. Dude killed just so many people. He stomped Brits in battle, shot dozens in duels, and murdered Indians with forced migration and land grabs. He's a killer, not a hobbyist wrestler or hunter. He's not trapped in there with them. They're trapped in there with him. Okay, let's get this straight. If we're talking in their prime, it's a tough call. Abe Lincoln was a professional wrestler. Andrew Jackson fought duels, legit beat a congressman with a hickory stick in public. Theodore Roosevelt challenged himself as a man with something to prove. Grant was born a grizzled sob. Washington fought using guerrilla-style tactics in the French and Indian War. Ike was career army, etc. This is a list of tough motherfuckers. Still, when it comes to reach, strength, and speed, my money would be on Lincoln. At the time of their first inauguration or at their peak in life. Inauguration, probably T-Ruse. But peak physical point in life, washy-wash. Edit, in a battle royal, Carter. Always underestimated. And pretty sure he's got some gangster shit on the Reaper, because he's still kicking. Teddy Roosevelt, without a doubt. Why? https://www.google.com/amp/s/www.history.com/.amp/news/shot in the chest 100 years ago Teddy Roosevelt kept on talking this is why. Lol dude was fucking unstoppable. So the 5 youngest presidents with height and weights 1. Tr. 42/5 feet 10 inches, 2,372. JFK 43/6 feet 1 inch /1753. Clinton, 46/6 foot 2/2234. Grant, 46/5 feet 8 inches /1565. Obama, 47/6 foot 2, 180 tr has to be the favorite here. The youngest president when sworn in. Is a little on the shorter side but is one of the heavier presidents. Has a military background and practiced boxing and judo. Y'all are forgetting that Gerald Ford was a star football player. See, he'd tackle your ass. Unless you're Richard Nixon and then he'll inexplicably let you get away. Easy. Calvin Coolidge. No one would notice he's there while they kill each other. He'd just pop out of a corner when everyone else was dead and be like sup dot and quat. FDR. As bad as some of the presidents were, I just don't believe they'd take out a guy in a wheelchair. Hope springs eternal, what can I say? Tilda only 5 of them are alive right now Tilda depends what age they are during this fight Tilda fuck it. Teddy Roosevelt. Either Teddy Roosevelt or Abraham Lincoln. My money is on Lincoln because he is massive and a skilled wrestler. People sleeping on Andrew Jackson. Beat the shit out of his own assassin with a cane during his presidency. Trump obviously. He may not actually win, but he'll say he did and millions will believe it. Definitely Teddy Roosevelt. Dude was a proficient boxer, wrestler, and judo practice owner. Teddy Roosevelt, founder of our national park system. He was quite the adventurer. Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame or some such thing. The guy was a beast. Either Teddy Roosevelt or Andrew Jackson. Either way, that's the final round. Teddy Roosevelt. Dude was very outdoorsy, physically active and a wrestler. Grover Cleveland would give everyone else 2 non-consecutive beatings. LBJ comes out of left field and clubs everyone with his magnum dong. Why is depopulating the planet, over time naturally, generally frowned upon? I came across some research that shows that as soon as birth control becomes easily available to women, birth rates tend to decline drastically. Can't remember where I read it, though, and I'm not about to try to find it. Also, birth rates are declining in most developed countries. Even China is about to deal with this issues, as North America, most of Europe, Korea, and Japan are now. A shrinking population can play havoc on a society. Abandoned houses, businesses, factories, less tax revenue, everything start to fall into disrepair. Many older adults, and not enough working people to pay into pensions to take care of them. So, yeah, a shrinking population will definitely help with the environmental issues. It's the societal issues that are maybe difficult to deal with. I teach environmental science and a huge part of the course is population growth. What we see now in societies that have negative population growth is the following. 1. Less tax revenue for government because there are less workers in that society. This isn't going to only affect economic growth, but it will also lead to a reduction in services that the government can offer its populace. Also, less workers in society means less goods being manufactured and more important less being purchased. These 2 are key to capitalistic growth. 2. Lack of care for the elderly. Usually the younger generation will assist with this, however when there is no younger generation this becomes the government's responsibility. At that point the government cannot help due to what was discussed in number 1 above. 3. Weaken military power. The military is made up of people 18 to 35. Less of those people simply means less soldiers. Less soldiers means weaker military. As a big-time environmentalist and activist, I agree that human growth and population is the root of the problem. However, as someone who also values justice, I'd point out that there are lots of historical examples of people who tried to do exactly what you're saying to horrific effect. Check out this podcast episode https://www.vox.com/futureperfect/2019/6/5/186298001/emergency in India 1975 Indira Gandhi Sterilization Ford Foundation, about the Ford and Rockefeller Foundations who teamed up in the 60s and 70s to tackle this specific problem. It started with the thoughts we are sharing now but became, in essence, some rich white guys creating a major forced sterilization program for India. Many people had no idea they were even sterilized and had no choice. It was hideous. If it were able to be accomplished humanely and voluntarily, I think it would be great. But messing around with the most basic drive that organic creatures have, the drive to procreate, can be disastrous. Ideas about limiting population according to resources are often called Malthusian because they tie back to the discredited philosophies of Thomas Malthus. He was repeatedly demonstrated to be wrong, and every time any kind of resource seemed to approach scarcity, humans have innovated and optimized the hell out of it through mechanization of agriculture, better planning and better logistics. Esther Boserup, for example, wrote extensively on this. Population reduction ideas are nowadays mostly propagated by misanthropes who disguise their hatred of fellow humans as concern for the environment. Once you ask them a few questions, their true colors are quickly revealed. The main reason is that human population has nothing to do with how much food, land, etc. we have. It's unequal distribution of resources that causes all the problems people think that overpopulation causes. Jeff Bezos uses the resources of 100 million people, whereas a farmer in Africa uses the resources of, on average, one person or less. So reducing the population of African farmers would do little, but removing Bezos would do a lot. Part of the problem you'd have is the growth obligations our society is structured around. Just look at elder care, for example. There's only so many young people for every old person. You need to keep adding more young people to keep that ratio relatively balanced, but if you stop having new kids, that system collapses quickly. Your workforce also rapidly ages as labor becomes prohibitively expensive. Usually your best bet for what you're shooting for is very mild growth. How? I don't think many people would oppose a proposal to increase education funding or put in play restrictions on child marriage, both of which decrease birth rates by delaying early childbearing at the cost of the parents' economic opportunities. When depopulating means eugenics or letting people die needlessly, then, sure, you get pushback because those are bad things. Because the entirety of human civilization has put all its chips in the basket that reads infinite growth forever, like a bunch of fucking idiots buying into MLM. Now everything is all about how to make more slaves to make more money for shareholders rather than any meaningful or reasonable definition for right and wrong. Greater than why don't we start encouraging people to have fewer babies? You mean, besides the last 50 years of globally encouraging and expanding access to family planning, which has helped reduce fertility rates to below replacement levels in countries as diverse as Thailand, Colombia, Nicaragua, Malaysia, and Brazil, to say nothing of the entire highly developed first world? How are you going to convince some people to not have a child just so other people's children can have it better? Who gets to have children or not? Anyone else skip episodes that are musicals? I can't deal with skipping episodes. If I even skip 1 second to a show, I have to rewind and watch it. It's stupid, but otherwise it makes me super anxious. I just stop watching the show when I come to points like this. I stopped watching Riverdale when I got to the Heathers episode. I love Heathers the musical, but they made it so cringy, I couldn't watch. I may get downvoted, but I quit watching the Netflix show The Magicians because of this. 1 or 2 musical episodes were great. I enjoyed them, but then again, and again, and again, I just stopped watching it, and I had watched it since the beginning. Then they did it with Lucifer. I never even finished the last few episodes of it, because of this. Was an awesome series though. Yes, I don't like musicals in general, my ADHD says no thanks, and then when it's a show that's usually normal and I'm supposed to take these singing and dancing people seriously? Nope, can't do it. I hate when they do like pretend stuff in a show that is realistic, so musicals are part of that, but also when they show dreams or are being visited by the ghost of a loved one out of nowhere. If it's a ghost show then fine, but otherwise no. I hated all the Grey's Anatomy episodes when Meredith was in the COVID coma and talking to people that died, and it wasn't just a dream because she knew stuff that happened in real life, like her BF dying when she was in the coma and she woke up already knowing. It just all screams they have run out of material and grasping for something to fill the time. Never adds anything to the plot, all filler and a waste of time. I hate it, but I don't skip it. If I'm already watching a show and liked it enough to get to the point where they threw even that in, I want to at least see it once. But I do very much dislike when a whole musical number is just inserted into something. Part of the reason why I generally don't like Disney movies. Not a fan either, but I do love when shows have one episode that's a completely different approach than the rest of the series. Like that episode in Breaking Bad where he tries to kill the fly. Or the underwater episode in BoJack Horseman. Or Snowfall when they're all drugged with LSD. I hate musical episodes almost 100% of the time. I've stopped watching shows altogether because of them. Grey's Anatomy, I skipped the supernatural musical episode and nothing of value was missed. But the one that the Magicians did? That was pure genius. I watched it twice. I don't like them as a rule, they always seem a bit cringe. But, I really liked the musical episode of Lucifer. Mostly because the songs and choreography were spot on, and it's one of my favorite shows. It also made sense in the story. This just reminded me the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was so good until they turned it into a damn musical in season 3. My husband and I turned it off immediately and haven't watched it any further. We are so pissed, it ruined the entire series. /rant. Oh absolutely. There are a few types of episodes I usually skip and most are anything too trope Y. So musical episodes, Star Wars episode, and film noir episodes are, for me, the trifecta of skippable episodes lol. I tend to watch it at least once so I don't miss anything important plot-wise, and then if I ever do a rewatch I skip it. I am deaf, so these episodes are typically less engaging for me. Watch the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Every episode is a musical episode. It is a musical TV comedy show and it is very, very good. 4 seasons, 157 original songs, lots of dirty content. It is on Netflix. Musical episodes on non-musical shows are so cringe to me. I remember the Grey's Anatomy episode and how horrible it was. I feel like that was the beginning of the end for that show. Almost always, I fucking hate musical episodes. If it's 5 to 10 minutes in and they're still singing, I'm just gonna skip it and look up the episode synopsis online. I'm with you. Something about writing uninspired music as a vehicle for funny lyrics just grinds my gears. I wouldn't mind if the music were good, but it never is. I did this with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's musical episode in season 12. I absolutely hate musicals. They make me cringe. Maybe I'm not normal for that. If it's a somewhat serious show that out of nowhere does musical numbers, skip that like a rock. If the series is already goofy, I watch it. You guys probably don't watch kids shows, but as a mom I thought the musical episodes of Henry Danger were far better than the regular show. Same. Because why is this here? Lol, I appreciate the creativity, but I definitely skip too when it has nothing to do with music. Till that musical episodes are a thing and that every show I don't watch has one in it. I always skip clip show episodes though. Yup, every fucking time with Bob's Burgers, either that or the ones where they imitate a movie episode or like a dream thing.